Good morning, friends. Today we are going to do a farm tour, but this farm tour is not going to be about the harvest that we have or the productivity that we have. Usually, our farm tours, and you might have seen some of them, are related to the production that we have on the farm, the kind of harvest that we do on the farm. But today, this farm tour video is going to be about the post harvest management of our farm over here. And this is going to be specific to the stone fruits that we have already harvested. We have already harvested our cherries, our apricots, our plums, our peaches, and nectarines. All of them have been harvested. Most of them have been stored, some of them have been eaten, and some of them for the first time were also sold to our customers. Now I'm going to take you on a farm tour and show you what kind of management that we do on these trees which have done the job, which have produced us the fruits that we needed. We have used those fruits. Now what do we do with these trees? What kind of management practices that we have for these stone fruit trees so that next year we have a good production. So this is the middle of August, and this is the time when we get the worst of the rains or the best of the rains, depending on the kind of perspective you have towards the monsoons. At this time of the year, all our stone fruit trees are bereft of any fruit. This one over here behind me is a cherry tree, and you will see no fruit on it because cherries were harvested. In fact, cherries are the first stone fruit that we harvest on the farm. We start harvesting our cherries towards the end of May, and because we have a lot of varieties, we have almost about 20 plus varieties of cherries. Some of them are also late harvest varieties of cherries, and those we harvest. I think Lapins is the last cherry that we harvest on the farm, which is the late harvest variety which we harvest towards the end of June. All have been harvested. There's nothing you will find on any of the cherry trees. And this shrub over here, the neighbor of the cherry tree, is the sea buckthorn. The sea buckthorn we did not harvest the berries from because it did not produce any berries. It hasn't produced any berries ever since we planted this. I think it was in the year 2023. But sea buckthorn is a very useful shrub in that you can also use its leaves. If it's not bearing you any berries, no problem. You can still harvest the leaves and you can make herbal tea out of it, which we have already done. And as you can see, the leaves on the sea buckthorn, they have been harvested. We don't harvest too much. What has happened over here, you don't see too many leaves, is because we also had our June beetles or the Japanese beetle taking the liking for the sea buckthorn leaves, and they have sort of foraged on it. They have eaten the leaves, and that's why you see very less leaves on the sea buckthorn. We have harvested them ourselves, and the June and the Japanese beetle have also have also eaten most of the leaves, as you can see. But in my experience, the sea buckthorn is a hardy shrub, and once it establishes itself, it survives. So the only fruit that you're going to see on our farm at this time of the year, apart from the berries of course, which we harvest right till December, are going to be the apples and the pears. These are the palm fruits. They are not stone fruits. These are going to be harvested now. This is the time for us to harvest our apples and the pears. This one over here behind me is a Buckeye Gala variety of apple, and this is a dwarfing variety of apple which we have grown on the M9 rootstock. M9 rootstock is a dwarfing rootstock. This over here is the Buckeye Gala, and post 20th of August we shall start harvesting these apples as well. Then across the pathway over here we have this particular plum variety, or rather the prune, called the Diante variety of prune. We have two varieties of prunes, the Diante and the Stanley. Both of them have disappointed me. Now I'm going to look for another variety and graft that on this particular tree, because this particular fruit, as you can see, cracks very easily, and the quality is not very good, the size is not very good. Now this is what you can rectify with grafting. So if you have a variety which is not producing you or not giving you the results that you expect from that variety, you can easily graft it with the variety of your choice, a better variety, and turn that tree into that particular variety that is performing well. So this is what we're going to do with this particular prune over here, which is underperforming, which is not giving us the kind of quality fruit that we want. So prune is the only fruit on the farm, or the only stone fruit on the farm, that we harvest post August 15. This is something that we can harvest even in September, depending on the kind of variety of prune that you have. Now this over here, this tree is an example of what you can accomplish with grafting. Now we graft our stone fruit trees towards the middle of February, depending on the kind of weather that you have at that time. And over here behind me is a plum tree, and this plum tree did not have any pollinizers around it. It did not have any pollinizing varieties of plums around it. So what did we do? We grafted it with a pollinizing variety. We have a pollinizer on the farm called the Shiro plum, and that Shiro plum, we took a sign of that Shiro plum and we grafted it onto one of these branches over here. If you look at this branch over here behind me, this has been grafted, and this was a little stub over here, and look how tall this has become. This has become almost about maybe what, 10 feet in the space of what, maybe a couple of months. Now this branch over here has become the branch of Shiro plum. This is gonna be the pollinizer for this plum. The bees are gonna sit on the flowers and cross pollinate with the other branches, the other flowers on this tree, and help it fertilize. And this is something that you need to do when you have anything on the farm which is not self-fertile. The plums, the apples, the pears, and some of the cherry varieties are not self-fertile. So for the pollination of the flowers, for the fertilization to happen, you need the pollen from a genetically compatible variety of tree. So this is what you need to understand, and you need to graft the pollinizers on your trees if you do not already have pollinizer varieties nearby. Over here on the right we have the peach tree. This was the platy first, or the flat peach, already been harvested. Its neighbor is this big red tree, from which we harvested a lot of fruit this year, despite the fact that we did not have a good crop of apricots elsewhere. And then over here between the apricot and the cherry tree, we have the buckeye gala again, the only fruit that we see apart from the pears and the berries still on the trees. And then in the undergrowth we have our strawberries. So these are our strawberries, and all the strawberries on our farm are growing in the beds of our stone fruit trees. Some of them are flowering, as you can see. Some we can still harvest in the future because the flowers are there, and some of them we are harvesting as and when we find them. Now we are mostly foraging for the strawberries because this is not the season when we harvest the strawberries. We have already harvested our strawberries. So this is the time when you're going to be just lucky if you're going to be finding any strawberries on our plants. Over here again, this is the pink jewel plum. It has been harvested, but what I want to show you is a successful graft over here of the Shiro pollinizer variety. So in August, after we have harvested all the stone fruits, what I do is when I'm walking on the farm, I come in and I pinch all these new shoots. Now the reason for pinching, and I will have eventually a longish video on the pruning practices that we follow on a farm over here. The reason that I'm doing this, to tell you briefly, is that I am trying to make this branch as small as possible. I'm trying to reduce the size of the branch because this is the new shoot and this has a growth hormone called the auxins on the tip, which I have removed. Now, by removing that particular tip and the auxins with it, I will induce this branch to produce more buds. But a longer video, a detailed video on the pruning practices that we do on the farm, because this is the time when we do the pruning, and we do it over here in August. I'll just briefly tell you the reason is that this is the time when our stone fruit trees have exhausted all their resources. They will not grow any further. And this is our objective. Now it all depends when you prune your stone fruit trees or any kind of tree for that matter. It depends what you want from that particular tree. Every farmer could have different expectations, different requirements from their trees. Now what I want specifically from my farm is that I don't want my trees to become very big and out of reach. So I prune them now in August when they have depleted all their resources, because whenever you make any kind of pruning cut, you are kind of stimulating the tree to put out more growth. But because at this time they don't have any resources left for them, because all their resources went into the production of the fruit, they won't have too much of energy to push into making any branches. What is actively growing on the farm is our corn, and the corn is growing also in the beds of our stone fruit trees. We don't have a separate field for them because we have space over here. The trees are smaller, we are keeping them small so they can grow over here without disturbing or shading the fruit trees. Now what you'll see actively producing on the farm, apart from our apples and our pears, are our blackberries and our raspberries. In fact, the blackberries, they come into production in August, right in the middle of monsoons. So this is what we do in August. We harvest a lot of our blackberries. Some of our raspberries are also in production, but our raspberries, a major portion of our raspberry harvest happens post September. That's when it's going to be very easy for us to harvest the raspberries, because there are going to be no rains, there's going to be no pest pressure. So we are looking forward to that this year. But for now, we are harvesting our blackberries, and this particular terrace is a blackberry terrace, and we have all of these blackberries which we are harvesting. We are harvesting about 2 to 3 kgs almost every day. What we are doing in a big way this year, and this is something that we are doing this year onwards, and maybe we'll have to do it only this year, is that we are planting a lot of flowers. These are autumn flowers that we are planting. We are planting them also in the beds of our trees. We are planting them between our trees. Now what we are planting right now is the cosmos. This is the cosmos flower. This is what we are planting on the beds of our stone fruit trees. This is obviously going to become much bigger, and this is going to flower in the month of September, October, and maybe November. Now, why are we doing this? We are doing this, of course, to build a habitat for the bees, build a habitat for all the beneficials that can come to the farm and treat this farm as a kind of a habitat for themselves. That's the idea. How do you get the predators? You get the predators when you have beautiful flowers on the farm. September, October, November, these autumn months is when things on the farm, they are bereft of any flower. This is the time when the trees, they turn yellow and then eventually red, and the leaves fall, and there's nothing on the ground, especially there are no flowers on the ground. So this is the time when we want a lot of color on the farm. So cosmos planting is going to be followed by planting the marigolds, which is again an autumn flower, and then we are going to also plant our nasturtiums, which is also an autumn flower, and then we are also going to plant along with it our calendula, which is an ever-bearing flower which flowers right through winters. So this is the effort over here. This is what we are doing at this time of the year. We are planting a lot of our flowers on the farm. Now, speaking of flowers, we already have our sunflowers blooming over here. Now, the good thing about these native flowers, and remember, only flowers that we encourage or that we want to plant on a farm, unless you are planting them for ornamental reasons, on the farm, you're going to be planting native flowers. And these native flowers, the good thing about the native flowers is that you just need to plant them once, because they tend to self-seed after that. So these sunflowers, they were sown only once, maybe a couple of years ago, and they come up again and again. And the same thing is hopefully going to happen with the cosmos flowers, which we are going to introduce all over the farm, and the nasturtiums. and our calendulas, which we are going to introduce everywhere. And then next year onwards, because they are native flowers, they are going to self seed. We won't need to make that effort again of planting them, transplanting them, sowing them anymore. Now this pathway over here on either sides is bordered by the cosmos, which is planted much earlier than the other cosmos that we are planting on a farm. And this is how tall they become. They become very tall and very pretty. Walking down this pathway, and then you have the purple and the pink cosmoses blooming everywhere, is definitely a very pretty sight. And one wild shrub which is also fruiting over here is the autumn olive. In locally we call it the gai. These are the small berries of the autumn olive which you can perhaps eat. This is a nitrogen fixing plant just like the sea buckthorn, and we have planted this, we have introduced this on a farm, and we have this growing between our fruit trees. And because the nodules in this shrub, just like the nodules of the sea buckthorn, they have bacteria over here. In the case of the shrubs, we have the Frankia bacteria which fix nitrogen in the soil. Mostly what we are doing with the autumn olive, because it's a naturalized native shrub in this part of the world, is that we are introducing this on a border. Now by planting this shrub, a native shrub like this which produces these very small berries, what we are doing is that we are treating this as a sacrificial plant. The birds, especially the bulbuls, they want to feed on these berries because these are the native shrubs, these are the native berries that they have fed on for hundreds of years perhaps. They don't want to come and eat your cherries. Cherries are very big. They are not suitable for their beaks. But if you don't have these, anywhere in the forest, if you destroy them, if you burn them out, then they will have to come to your farm and eat something. The birds come on the border, they feed on these, and they leave your cherries, your berries alone.